idea of all the stuff that happens before the band arrives. Like first, like I had heard about the Henry character just very, very loosely. But like at the end of that storyline, I actually was kind of really sad to see the Henry character go. I actually kind of got attached to it.
Oh shoot, you guys know more than me now, so I just realized there are details that I haven't watched an episode in such a long time. I hope I'm not
No, it'll be great. You'll remember. It'll all come back to you. But that actually gets to my question for you. How much of the show did you watch?
You know what? I at the time I watched it, I think there was a couple of summers where I did watch. Like I was trying to get myself caught up, so I would watch it in between. But that was a long time ago. I haven't watched an episode probably in years now. But you guys are just so crazy that you never saw it.
Never watched it. The most that I watched was I feel like I watched I definitely watched the first episode that we were in, and I watched it again the other night. And I was telling everybody, I remember that like when I watched it for the first time, I kind of cringed because I didn't really love what I was doing. You know, I just got in my head as an actor, and so I never wanted to watch it again because I just didn't want to watch myself. I got like really, really insecure. But then I watched the episodes in the season. I watched the Kenny Ortega episode with the butt kiss, where Zach kisses Lane at her bedroom door and my butt between the two of you, just because I just knew everyone on set was laughing at it, and I was like, okay, this has got to be good, so I gotta watch that one. I watched that one, and I think a few other scenes, but I never actually watched the episodes, so I really truly did not know what was going on, with the exception of what I might gather from a table read, because I hear the episode in that context. So I'm really like totally surprised by things like, first of all, had no idea that Rory was going to have like a half sister. Like, this is crazy. Just a variety of really weird things that like it's been an absolute blast. I'm loving it. Anyway,
you guys are powering through it, man.
I know we are.
Season 3, crazy.
Yeah, we're doing one per night, and then we do either two or three on weekend days. We like today we're doing 3. We're doing 2 in the morning, and we're gonna do another one at night. Yesterday we did only 1, so we're getting through it really, really fast. But anyway, it's been wild. But you know, I was having lunch with Sean the other day, and I actually asked him because I was convinced that Sean had watched every episode, and he actually said that he didn't watch every episode. That he actually he was like, I'd say I watched, you know, at least half of the series. But he was like, but he said he read a lot. But I thought that he had watched all of them. So I keep saying it. It's a much more common thing than folks realize, that actors don't always watch shows that they're in.
That Friends reunion, they said that too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so like half the cast didn't even watch their show.
Yeah. So this episode is a Korean Thanksgiving episode. I'm guessing that it's going to have some similarities to the Korean New Year's episode. That's the only thing that I can think, but maybe not. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to now open up the couch to folks to vie for a spot. There are only 13 spots now because there's 2 spots here for myself and Keiko. I'm about to do that right now, and I encourage anybody who's down there to please join us. And here we go. Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh. 1, 2. There were 30 people in like an instant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There we go. 13 folks. If you did not get up onto the couch, do not fret. We will be here after the episode for a bit. to chat with Keiko and talk about the episode. I'm closing off the couch. For any of you who did not get up and are bummed, please don't be too bummed because we really are going to be here afterwards. Okay, I'm going to quickly stop my recorder and then I'm going to start the recorder again. For those of you who are joining us now here at the midpoint and who are new, I'm just going to do a very brief version of my spiel. This is Remarkist. We are watching our favorite television shows together, and our first show that we are watching together as a group here virtually is Gilmore Girls. I was on the show, so was Keiko Agena. I never watched the show, so I'm watching it now for the first time. I invited Keiko to join us today. She graciously accepted the invite, and so we are watching it with her, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Just to give you a sense of how it goes, Keiko, we're going to all start our play buttons at the same time on the count of three. I'll get to that in a bit. And then the episode plays, and you probably were listening in. There are big stretches of silence, and then there's like little bursts of jabber. It's very similar to like a DVD commentary track that you might hear on a DVD with the director and the writer, except here it's with fans. And, we talk about everything from people's hair, their outfits, we get snarky. Sometimes I point out something production-wise that I think is kind of interesting, or the fans. We sometimes just talk about what's going on in the scene and how we feel about like certain moments and stuff. We try our best not to get into conversations in the episodes, kind of keep our remarks relatively short so that we don't railroad the dialogue itself. When we're not speaking, we keep our microphones muted so that we can reduce background noise. And if you are speaking, I just ask that you keep the volume on your television as low as possible so that we can't hear it in the background when you're speaking. Kind of distracting. If something happens and the internet goes out for you and you need to come back into the room, you'll automatically be back on the couch when you do. If your episode stops and you need to figure out where we are in the episode, there's a really easy way to do that. Well, there's two of them. One, if you have the Remarkist app and you are signed into the app, you have an account, then you can go to the event page for this episode and there's a running time code, and that's the time code for the episode. That's where we are in the episode. Or you can go to my Instagram Live account, which is on my Instagram page. You can find that on my profile here on Clubhouse. There I have an IG Live feed that is displaying the time code. It's about 10 seconds off, but it'll get you close enough. We are recording this episode as always. Any folks who don't feel comfortable being on a recording simply don't speak or don't come up onto the couch. I don't know if this episode has a previously on the DVDs. Does anybody know? Well, if this episode has a previously on the DVDs, please skip ahead past the previously on, and because we always begin at the start of the episode itself. And I think that's it. Is there any questions that anybody has? I asked that we save any questions that we have for Keiko until after the episode's over, that we really try to keep the spirit of how we've been doing this so far. I know it's going to be hard for some folks, but I just ask that we try and do that for this. And then afterwards, I'm going to try and keep it sort of orderly, a little more orderly than we do. I mean, we usually do these pretty casual, like it's just really a bunch of friends just hanging out and chit-chatting. But I realized that we've got a lot of folks here today. Okay, if we don't have any questions, I say let's dive in. Does anybody have any questions? Great. All right. So everybody.
Let's do it.
Yeah, great. So everybody, if you have your remotes with you, as always, hold on one second. Let me get the time code for this particular episode going. The name of this episode is Deep Fried Korean Thanksgiving. You all know the drill. It will be on the count of three that we hit our play buttons. One, two, three.
I'm so happy this episode is at international time because I love it so much. It's one of my favorites.
What is this?
Grey Gardens. You've never seen Grey Gardens?
I have not seen Great Gardens.
We should watch it on Remarkist. They were cousins of Jackie Kennedy, who were living in this rundown house. And Ryan, who's the name of the director? The Maisels brothers made a documentary about them, and they were just like they had like 30 cats, and they were very strange.
Oh wow. Okay. That was also another very short cold opening. Sally's in this episode.
Oh, this is so cute.
All these scenes between them are adorable. Oh, this is a Dan episode. Oh, Jenny episode. Kenny was my favorite. Keiko, my favorite director to work with. I mean, I enjoyed working with. Yeah, I just loved all those episodes. Just loved all the choreography that he got us doing, like, you know, all of the blocking.
Yeah.
And Emily's hair has been just absolutely awesome these last two episodes. That shot's a little fuzzy.
For me as a German, Thanksgiving is such a big TV season because it's nothing happening in Germany. So I'm always amazed about all the food and everything. So that's really great.
Batsie's first holiday that she was excited to experience in the U.S. was Thanksgiving because of how much she saw it on television in Germany.
Yeah, I cooked in the pandemic a lot, and last year I just cooked Thanksgiving dinner for the two of us, and we ate and ate and ate.
I love it because we don't have it here, so it's cool for me to watch.
The food is so bad, though. It's like every person in America is expected to know how to make a freakishly large bird. But it's really easy if you can cook. It's so easy to make. Just follow the steps. Oh, and I loved all the side dishes. Like, oh my god, and all the desserts. I asked American friends for recipes, and I was like, oh my god, I can cook for a week and love it. Unbelievable Paris missed the call on time, like ever.
What part of the lot is this?
I forgot this was so early. Oh, it's baby day, Sean.
So this is the origin story of Cat Kirk.
Yes, a huge fan favorite. Yes, Cat Kirk is really famous.
He's so disappointed. He's so sad.
That's something I've never seen before. Is people kind of bouncing around to different Thanksgivings. I don't know. That doesn't seem like a common thing.
I did that once at Christmas at the age of 16, as my husband and I was already together for the first time, and we ate so much different Christmas stuff at one evening. I never did that again in my life. It's crazy.
Yeah, I did 30 Thanksgiving dinners one year with friends, and it was so much food.
I just love that because we're not Michelle wanting this. I actually know Michelle Kwan. She works in politics now. I love that.
Yeah, a lot of kissing. These two do a lot of kissing on the show. More kissing.
And outside the show.
She's doing that for Dean, right?
Actually, not the first time they broke up, but
But this whole like I don't want to do this in public is for Dean. I think.
it's for her sake because she feels guilty a lot from
Right. That's what I mean. Of course, it's really for herself. She's feeling guilty, but I just mean she's scared that will be seen by Dean. Look at all the brands. That's something that we early on Keiko. I mentioned that there are no brands in Dosie's Market, and then soon after, just every shot was shots of brands. I could have swore that like episodes that we did at Dosie's, there were no brands. It was all fake.
Yeah, I have the same memory. I think it switched back and forth.
I think this like you were the best boyfriend, you were the best first boyfriend. It's like that I think that would hurt more.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of Emily and Chris.
I just feel like they should just let him go off. No more talking to me, just let him do his thing.
Yeah, but like mother, like daughter, Lorelai is doing that for herself too, not just for me. It's like very similar, maybe.
Oh yeah. Oh, this feels like the Korean New Year's episode.
I've always found it slightly odd that they go to Miss Kim's every year because in the past we've seen a little bit of disdain for Lorelai from Miss Kim, and Thanksgiving's a very intimate holiday.
But isn't it the Christian thing to invite everyone?
I guess so. I guess you're right about that.
We invite everyone at Christmas.
Oh, the food. The set food. You remember that food, Keiko?
Yummy.
I've been telling everyone, whenever there was an episode with food, I always had leftovers for about a week in my house.
This is one of my favorite wardrobe episodes of all time. Everyone looks amazing the entire episode. Yeah, me too.
Did Adam play the guitar?
No one plays instruments on Gilmore Girls. John.
That's not true. Todd plays his guitar and always played his guitar.
Alright, that's true.
But I mean, that looks really authentic. I mean, he I guess he was, if he didn't play the guitar, I guess the thing they taught him the fingering like they did for me. But that looks good. Frying turkeys were kind of a big thing back then. Like around that time, that was like kind of a little fad. Everyone was frying their turkeys.
Mrs. Kim's Thanksgiving, or her cooking habits are very trendy though now. Like all of the fake meats and things. Yeah, I just wanted to ask if someone already tried a turkey now, because it sounds like a 2021 thing.
Yes, I actually made one today. It was really delicious.
Oh, perfect. So perhaps you can share the recipe with others if it's really good.
I'll have one as well, because I like TV and it's really nice.
I think 20 years ago, tofu was like really bland. Nobody knew what to make out of it. And now it's a really nice thing to eat if you like use the right spices.
I love Jackson in this like moment. He's so different than the Jackson we've seen previously.
Me too. He always makes me laugh. He's so funny in this scene.
Yeah, I would prefer to be at Suki Jackson's Thanksgiving.
Totally. There's Robert Lee.
Oh my goodness.
It's their face. Babette and Rory are a couple goals.
Yep, I love Babette and Rory too.
By the way, for those who don't know, Sean Gunn is a cat person, major cat person.
How many cats does he have?
I feel like he has right now, I think he has 2, but he's just always had a cat.
He said in his interview with Scott on the podcast that he thinks that Amy and Dan knew he was a cat person and so like worked this in to kind of make fun of that.
Slightly more mellow Jess, a little more polite.
Yes, but in front of the mother of his girlfriend, he needs to be really nice.
God, I wish that Mama was on the show more than she is.
Jennifer Aniston's father.
Yes, it was on Danceathon.
I was a huge Friends fan. Like when I first watched this, I freaked out.
Which older man are there two?
The first one that they met.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know, and then I saw the name on the guest stars at the beginning.
So speaking French makes such a difference, like show how different the Gilmores are than the other street dinners.
Once again, just sort of dumbing down Lorelai a little.
I don't know if it's dumbing down as much as it's her making a really good joke for herself.
It is, but I mean, she's the only one there that doesn't speak French.
Sure.
Oh, that was the character that was at the auction that we met earlier. The one that's to the right of Emily.
Yes, the Cobra. Call it a Cobra.
The Cobra, yes.
Natalie, I think.
Natalie. Yeah. Oh man, now I'm starting to wonder if maybe I'm going to be wrong and she's actually not going to get it to Harvard.
It's really naive of Lorelai to think that Rory was going to just apply to one school. It's totally dumb to apply just for one school because you cannot expect to go into a high school for sure. There are hundreds of applications, so I never get that because Lorelai is not so dumb to not think about that.
I get attacked. I applied for one school. Luckily I got it.
But it's UK is a little bit like smaller than the USA, I think.
seems unreasonable that she wouldn't at least like want her to apply a bit, you know? I mean, what she doesn't get into any of the other ones.
Especially when you plan the Ivy League, I think it's sensible to apply for the Ivy League.
Yeah, it makes no sense. That's a fan fest. The Gilmore fan fest. There were like the students from Yale, and they said they had a lot of applications every year, and it's a lot of luck to get into. It's not just being good at school. It's a lot of luck to get chosen. It's not just being good.
I think this shows that Emily and Richard were right when they said Lorelai didn't really understand the Ivy League and how to get it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's like Oxford over here, like Oxford and Cambridge. I'm assuming it's very similar.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And a school like Chilton wouldn't allow her to only apply at one college. They just wouldn't.
Yeah. By the way, just an acting thing here. I just think it's a great little detail that the two actresses are outside, kind of holding themselves. It just gives the weather a real presence on the show. I love it.
I have a fish because Rory is underage. Doesn't she need the signature of her mother to apply to university?
Hold on 1 second.
No, I have.
I think because you're 18 when you go and get masters.
Oh, I know, I needed it.
Aww.
Watch it.
Hey there.
What can I say? Perfect first kiss, perfect.
Awesome. The awesome.
It's better than Rory.
I think that's a better kiss. I think that's the best kiss of the episode. I think that's the best kiss of the episode.
He's a giant perfect too.
Agreed wholeheartedly.
Keiko's pleading the dead air. She's staying silent.
Keiko does not kiss and tell. By the way, I really love the Dave character.
Right?
It's incredible.
It's funny because I just didn't think I would. I mean, maybe because I, the fact that he left, I feel like made the band a different thing, and I got attached to that different thing. So, but I like him.
Dave is very loved. I think I never read anything bad about him ever.
Yeah, I totally like that.
I will proceed, Johnson. Hilarious.
I mean, this is the Thanksgiving I want to be at, for sure.
Lois is fantastic in this.
Yeah, she's just perfect.
God, oh my goodness, Sarah, Melissa McCarthy is so good at this.
Yeah, she's so funny.
Keiko, are you team Jess or team Dean?
Team Jess, come on.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
You just made one of our community members very happy.
Tasha probably has the biggest smile on her face.
She's not even in here.
She's an audience.
She'll be up here. Ooh, that's another.
Did he contact me? Oh, he did.
I love this scene with Miss Weiler's team Dean and Jared's team Jess, which is really funny to watch.
I really don't like that side of Dean.
Yeah, that was not cool. I mean, he's angry. I mean, that's coming from real anger. But that was flipping the script there.
I think Jess treated Dean poorly the whole time, and now it's the first time Dean is like fighting back, and I love that scene. I think it's really good. He's finally saying, no, I'm not the victim anymore, so I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to what he did at the Danceathon, like, are sort of in the same family of reactions that we had, or that he had at the Danceathon that we talked about.
I love Stars Hollow in the fall. It's so beautiful. Perfect.
Yeah, Stars Hollow in the fall feels like that's the show, right? I mean, like, it's kind of, for me, the show, the one of the symbols of the show is like just a fall leaf, that's
It's Gilmore Girl season.
yeah, and that's also probably of the the opening credits are so orange and
Yeah.
so fall-y looking. Anyway, all right, I am about to open up the couch, and we're gonna have a little chat here for a bit. All right, are you ready? This is gonna be crazy because the number of people that tried to get on the couch is like a good 30 folks. So I'm guessing just pretty much everybody down there is gonna try to get up on the couch. Well, you'll all get on the couch, but here we go. Ready? And open. Oh, sorry. And open. What's going on here? Open to everyone.
Did you break it up?
Oh my gosh, why is it not opening?
We broke it.
Oh no, it's open to everyone. No, it's open to everyone now. There we go. That was weird. For a second there, I was a little worried. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh no, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh goodness. Oh goodness gracious. There's a lot of people. Okay, this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest couch that we've had yet. Look what you've done, Keiko.
So John, are you just gonna start with some discussion between yourself and Keiko?
Yeah, I'm gonna just talk to Keiko a little bit here. I have some questions.
Perfect.
First, there's just you know what, actually, you know, really good here, because this is actually, it looks like no one is, oh man.
I just joined and it was really slow, John, so it might be overloaded.
Yeah, I have a
Oh,
feeling that,
you're lagging a little.
yeah, I have a feeling that we're having a little bit of clubhouse difficulty here.
This is also the time of the clubhouse town hall every week, so it's busy loading down time for the server.
There have been people trying to get the room and click back because I couldn't get on for a long time, but that helped.
Oh no. Well, no, even worse than that. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Even worse than that, okay, cool. Now people are coming up. Okay, I'm gonna make Tiffany, I'm making you moderator. Can you do me a favor and start bringing people up onto the couch, because if I do that, then that's gonna sort of take some time. You're now moderator, so try to do that. It's probably gonna be laggy for a bit. All right, so Keiko, how is that watching the episode for the first time in however long?
Yeah, it's wild. Everybody is so sweet looking.
Everybody is so young looking, is what you
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Everybody looks really young. It's kind of adorable. But Matt Jones is in that episode too. You know Matt Jones from Breaking Bad and all that stuff.
I could have pointed that out, but you're so right.
Where was he? Where was he?
He's part
one
of
of Jess's
Jess's
family
crew.
Oh.
Yeah, he had like a big lock of the head, and he had like another jacket on, I think.
Was he the one that cleaned the deep fryer with Scotty?
I did. I wasn't paying close enough attention to them, but that's interesting. I'll take a look again. When I was chatting with them about just about the band, like when we saw the band for the first time, I was talking a little bit about how I felt like really the band storyline was really just a sort of set dressing. At this point, for me, is how I felt about it. I'm curious to see how you feel about it. That it was more set dressing for what was really happening in the story, in the show, and storyline for Lane at this point, which was this was about a relationship that they were building for your character, and that at least I felt like the band, me and Todd may or may not come back, past that first episode. That it was really all about building this Dave character, and so that's why I was like, I didn't know how I was going to feel about that Dave character as I was watching it, but I've really loved it. But what are your thoughts on that? Did you feel like from the inside, was it really like? Did you feel like this was really about the writers giving Lane a love interest or the writers giving Lane a big band storyline?
It's funny because it's hard for me. I probably have, I don't know how you feel when you look back on the show, but my memories kind of get jumbled. Like, when I think of the band, I think of, I more think of you, Todd, and Sebastian, I guess, is the first thing that comes to my mind. So it's hard for me to separate and think of what it was back then.
I know the date. Yeah. Well, I was telling folks a story about how when, I don't know if you remember this, but when we first, after our first rehearsal, or during our first rehearsal, for that first episode, for that first episode, we met at a studio, and we rehearsed London Calling. And I remember at some point in there, you sort of stopped us and you were like, hey, everyone, just want to let you know, like, if we really are awesome, do you remember this? No, keep going. You were like, if we are awesome, they'll bring us back. Like, like this, this will be like, this could be something big for the show, like for, this storyline. And I remember thinking, well, I remember thinking that because you were a regular on the show at that point, that you couldn't have really been saying like, I hope that we're awesome because if we were awesome, then like, I'll keep my job. That you were really more saying like, if we're awesome, this could turn into something really, really cool, like a really cool storyline, and that you really cared about this idea that there could be a band. And so even though, as a viewer, divorcing myself from it, having, knowing what I know about the show, as a viewer, I feel like the band at this point is really just set dressing for a love story between Lane and Dave. I think you may have known or may have had some sense that maybe there was an actual like band that was coming. I mean, they were giving you drumming lessons, weren't they?
Yeah. I mean, I was, first of all, I always thought I was going to get fired at any moment. I was very stressed and insecure, like 24/7. But that aside,
oh, wow.
But that aside, I think as an actor, you always want whatever they're giving you for your storyline to have legs, to be able to sprout off and have something grounded to it. And so I'm sure I don't remember that exact conversation, but I'm sure I said something to that end because I was practicing very hard. And I do remember like when we first started, it was much more structured. The whole band rehearsal, there was a lot more time spent on each song and getting us all up to snuff before we recorded, right? And then
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It got way more lax, like I'd say in like season 5. I mean, I feel like definitely season 3. Every single episode I feel like most episodes that we were in had some music going on, but definitely if there was any kind of music going on, Helen had us at like at some sound stage. We were rehearsing like hours, and then it would just be like, it would just be like a tiny little like, entering the scene, like the last one, entering the scene, you hear us playing London Calling, but we rehearsed that for like a good like 8 hours, just like really, really intensive. I think that was also a big thing for Helen. This was a storyline that like, really meant something to her, and she really cared about wanting it to sound really good. And there were some episodes where we did do a lot of music. I know like later in the season, we've got that house party where there's a lot of music there. It did get like a little more lax as we got into later seasons, but man, those first 2 seasons, I mean, we really felt like we were a band because we rehearsed like crazy for those musical sequences. Many of them were just like nothing, like we barely even played, or there was barely anything that the episode actually showed. Yeah. What did you what was your feelings about the? Do you even remember how you felt about the Dave storyline and about the Dave character?
Yeah, I really liked it. I was so bummed when I heard that Adam got cast and wasn't coming back, because I thought they put such they had put effort into that character, and they were building him up to be such a good-hearted guy, and I liked that for Lane, because her life is kind of tough. So it was nice that she had someone so caring and thoughtful for her. Yeah, I like Dave.
Yeah, and I said that I really enjoyed working with Adam. I was bummed that he was gone too. I was bummed when he left as well. I mentioned this the other night, because I felt like I was kind of developing a friendship with him. Like, we were hanging out a lot in each other's trailers. Yeah, he was also, I don't know if folks know this about him, but he was at least at that time, was kind of an indie filmmaker. He had a little group of friends that they were like making short films and doing all that stuff. And so was I, if you remember, with Sean and Lee, we were all making short films. So he and I were actually like meeting in each other's trailers to like show each other the short films that we were making, and I just felt like I was developing a friendship with him that just evaporated, 100% evaporated when he left the show. And so I was actually really bummed about that, because I really liked him, and I thought that he and I would become much better friends as the series went on. And then, of course, I also assumed that when he was gone, I assumed we were gone, because I really believed that it was like that. I just felt like we were. I know that the fans have said otherwise, and maybe I will feel that as I watch more episodes. So far, I've only seen one that we've been in, but I just felt the whole time, sort of like you, that like this was fleeting. It was going to go at any moment. I never would have expected that we would be on for the full 7 seasons, or the remaining seasons. And so
wild, because I think your opinion might change when you watch it, when you watch yourself in context of the show.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. I'm pretty sure I will, because so much has changed about my perception of the show watching it. I'm watching it, I feel like I'm just becoming an actual, just legit fan of the show. Sometimes I even, to be honest, totally forget that I was on the show. All right, so your team, Jess.
Yeah.
Tasha, how you feel about that?
Well, hello, Keiko. Very nice to virtually meet you.
Well, now wait, Tasha. Before you go on, I just want to say we want to try and keep our responses relatively short. I'm starting with Tasha here, because I know she would have loved to have been on the couch. She wasn't on the couch, but after Tasha, we're going to start moving around the room and letting folks chat with Keiko and ask some questions. We will be here for about another 15-20 minutes, I'd say, maybe about 25 minutes, but it really all depends on whether or not Keiko can stay with us. But ask away there, Tasha.
I'll keep it brief. So like I said, nice to virtually meet you, Keiko. Huge fan. And very happy to hear that you're a Jess fan. Of course, I can't give any spoilers because John hasn't seen the rest of the series, so I'll just keep it to where we've seen so far. So yeah, what do you like about him? And like him and like Rory and like that whole triangle?
I always thought that Jess was the best match for Rory, that the only thing that he needed to do was grow up and mature. And I always thought that he would at some point. I thought that the other two guys that are the longtime boyfriends for Rory had flaws that didn't, and I won't get into the whole Logan thing because John hasn't seen it, but
wait, who are you talking about? There's another guy?
No. Yeah. I just thought that Jess was always the intellectual match for her, and they pushed each other, and they would have to get over things, but that eventually they'd be together.
Yeah, I feel like they sparred very well with each other, and like Dean had things that like maybe Jess didn't, and vice versa, and we won't go into someone else yet. But yeah, I feel like that they like knew each other really, really well, and plus, I mean, they dated in real life, so I mean, the chemistry on screen was just because of chemistry off screen. So, but yeah, huge fan. Nice
so folks, we're going to use the mic flashing feature as a sort of hand raising. So if you have something that you'd like to ask Keiko, I ask you to just flash your mics. We have Lauren flashing and Shauna flashing. Why don't we start with Lauren, then we'll go to Shauna.
Hi guys. Hi Keiko.
Hi.
It's so awesome to talk to you.
Hi.
Huge fan. So my question is kind of hypothetical, I guess. So if Dave had stayed on the show, where do you think that they would take the story? What would you have wanted to happen? Like, would they have actually made it as a band and become famous? Like, what did you see happening?
I think for good TV, the perfect guy image of Dave would have had to have been broken at some point for some reason, for conflict.
Cool.
But I do think that maybe, and I don't know what John's going to say about this, but maybe have Alien as a band might have been more successful.
Whoa. Meaning more successful, like we would have actually like grown into a band that like could have become famous.
Well, we wouldn't have had to deliver subs in between.
Which is funny. It's ironic because of course he was replaced by a character played by an actual rock legend. I mean, which, to be honest with you, I think that irony actually works. Like, I actually like the idea that because he was replaced by an actual rock star, that the most logical way to write that story is for us to never become a famous rock band. Yeah. Whereas had Dave stayed on in the series, we may have actually grown into an actual legit rock band. That totally tracks with me. I like that a lot.
That's what I totally wished for Lane. I thought she totally deserved that. And I really wanted her in the band to become really big because her life was tough and she worked so hard to finally connect with her mom and be happy. And I thought, yes, she's finally getting what she wanted. And then Dave left and it was like, aw.
I just wanted her and Dave to be together because, well, Anne Brody is Anne Brody.
I think though that so far we haven't seen. I haven't seen much more, and I can't really remember. I'm having a hard time remembering how the Dave character evolves throughout this season. But one of the things that this show does really, 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 really well is subverting your feelings about a character. So what you expect about that character then totally flips at some point, right? And as of right now, Dave seems to be the nicest guy in the world and really smooth and knows how to, to charm, a really conservative Christian mother, which tells me that if you want to subvert that, our feelings about that character, then you got to go the opposite route, which means that at some point, if he had stayed on the show, we would be really, really, really upset with him. Like he would do something that really upset us. That was the opposite of all of that stuff. I just want to pose that like as that would have been a real possibility.
Cherry, Chris, Stacy, and Jean are flashing.
Well, actually, Shauna was flashing. Shauna, do you want to go, and then we'll jump to some of those others?
Yes. Okay, Keiko. Actually, my question is, do you still continue to play the drums?
I haven't for a while. I'm a little bummed, but yeah, I haven't for a while.
And you still, I mean, and when you were done, you still continued to play, right? I mean,
yeah. soon after the show, I did play. I would play. My husband had a open jam session, and so I would play with him a couple times a month, like very late at night after most of the people went home, but it was just close friends at 12 on o'clock on a Wednesday or something. We would play.
And obviously you stay in touch with John and and stuff like that, but do you stay in touch with the rest of the cast?
No, it's mostly John and Sean, I would say.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
We see Todd. We see Todd every once in a while.
True.
It hasn't been. I mean, and also the pandemic has changed the amount of time that we can spend with one another. But there was a little period of time where Todd's band was playing a bunch, and we were meeting to support that. Like he was playing around town. But that hasn't been for a while, and I don't know if that's because he's not really playing in a band anymore.
Thank you very much, Keiko, and I love your character. I also love it I love you on Prodigal Son too. So
thanks.
Thank you.
Who was next in line?
Sherry.
Sherry, go for it.
All right, so on Discord, Samantha Italy wants to know from Keiko if she is Team Dave or Team Zach.
Oh, good question.
I think my mic is not working.
We can hear you now.
Oh, that's bad.
She's pleading the fifth again.
That is such a lie.
And I just want you to know, I do hashtag save Prodigal Son all the time because that show really needs to be picked up somewhere else.
Yes.
Who was next in line?
Chris.
Chris, go for it.
Hi, Keiko. Thanks for joining us. I was just wondering, in all the years you were on the show, did you have a particular favorite kind of running storyline for Lane that you really enjoyed playing?
Go ahead.
Like a theme or something that Lane followed really like.
Do you have one?
I always kind of enjoyed the how she kind of hid that rocker side of herself from Mrs. Kim, but in the end, Mrs. Kim kind of accepted it all. I just love the way you guys did that. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but just your floorboards, things like that, little things about Lane.
Yeah, I would say there are a couple of moments that I really love. Like there's one I always think of where Emily and I haven't even seen this episode in forever, but where she closes all the drapes and she brings out two tiny, like not shot glasses, but little glasses, and pours a tiny bit of alcohol in it, and we cheers together. And I just, I think that the change that we got to go through as characters over that 7-year period was a real treat. It was a surprise.
Yeah, you guys were a lot of fun to watch together on screen.
Yeah, there were a lot of, I mean, it's hard to remember a lot of that stuff. It all kind of, like you said, it sort of blurs together. I'm revisiting all of it now. I'm seeing all of this for the first time, but even like that first scene that I saw with us, I remember, like I didn't really remember most of it until I actually saw it.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna give the next 3 names.
Yeah.
Stacy, Nikki, Mary.
Oh, you forgot about Jean. Jean was after me.
Oh, yes, Jean. I tried.
Sabrina's been flashing too.
Hi, Keiko. As a Korean American, I absolutely love the representation. But my biggest question was, how did you feel about the representation during that time frame when there weren't a lot of Asian Americans on screen?
You know, like I mentioned before, I was kind of the whole time I was on Gilmore Girls, I was in a bit of low-key panic of just trying to get week to week of, I shouldn't have thought this way, but it was really just, I just would like to keep my job. So it really wasn't until later that I honestly thought that much about how rare it was to be Asian American on television, because it's a whole nother level of stress. So I don't know if this is answering your question exactly, but from the inside, that's how it was at the time. Now I have a great appreciation, and I'm really grateful that I had that chance to be on a show with a character that got to travel over the course of 7 years. It's not perfect as far as representation, but I think that it was something unique at the time.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really. I watched Gilmore Girls after it had already finished, but I watched it after, like, I've watched it so many times over, and Lane is always my favorite because it's like the one person I can relate to, and the little tidbits of her character of like the strict parenthood, the strict household. It was kind of similar to what I grew up with, so I just like really liked how they actually put some of those things. But yeah, just a huge fan. Thank you.
Oh, cool. Oh, very cool.
Now it's Stacy. I have them all written down, I promise you.
Stacy, did you want to say something?
Yes. Hi, Keiko. I'm a huge fan. Like Jean was saying, Lane was my favorite character, so I'm so excited that you're here. So my question was, do you think that the writers always intended for Lane to have a love interest in the band? Because I was curious why, like, when Adam left, they weren't maybe concerned about trying to expand her universe a little bit.
Well, and you guys might have already talked about this, but Adam's character is named after Helen Pye's actual husband. So I think that was probably something set in their minds to keep that. And so I think when Adam did leave, I can understand that it was a very natural thing to keep the band, and for her to be with Zach was a kind of a natural progression from that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that and this kind of gets back to what you were talking about before about the Dave character and what if he had progressed on the series. This also answers the question of who I am, whether I'm team Zach or team Dave. I really like the Dave character, but I mean, it's an easy one for me. I'm team Zach. I'm team Zach all the way. And I think that that's because we didn't get to see it, but like, I just think that all of that stuff with Zach, and without spoiling it, I don't want to get too deep into it, but just this, it gets interesting. There's just so much conflict between those characters, and we need that. And as of right now, there's not a lot of conflict between the characters of Lane and Dave. Had the storyline continued, I think that they would have looked to create all that same kind of conflict between the Dave character and the Lane character as they found. Maybe it would have been a different kind because they're very different. They have very different personalities. But I think that's what it would have been, because ultimately I do agree with you. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to sort of create a storyline that that was inspired by Helen and the real Dave, who, by the way, came and chatted with us about a couple weeks ago. Dave was here, so a lot of folks already did know that he was or his name was the inspiration. I mean, also he was the inspiration. He actually told a story about how he did a musical Christian thing for Helen's family, like that he did almost the exact same scene that we see in this episode with Helen's family. They did some sort of church event that he went to and whatnot. So this was actually, the circumstances were a little different, and I don't think that it was that he was pretending to be somebody else, or I think that Helen's mom knew that they were together, I think. But that was actually an inspiration for this particular scene. I don't know.
I love that. I love
that. Makes me so happy.
Yeah, it's very sweet. What getting really quickly into, and I know other folks want to talk. I ask some questions. I just, you know me, I kind of sometimes want to resist like the formal panel stuff. I know that stuff's really fun for you guys, but I want to keep it somewhat conversational. And I just want to ask a question about the episode, and about the that scene with Jess and Dean at the end. This is a thing that we do. Like, you know, we typically, these are not like, you know, a Q&A afterwards. We really do just chit chat and just dive deep into what just happened. And I feel like that's probably the most intense thing that happened in the episode, was that final scene there with Dean and Jess. What's your take on that? Like, do you feel like Dean was being a jerk and that was uncool, or you think it's justified?
Oh, my take on it?
Yeah, what do you think? And then I'm going to ask some other folks like what they think, or other folks can just chime in.
Oh yeah, I mean that's hard for me though, because I've been Team Jess for so long that I watch that with that lens. So it's hard for me to be objective. I'm on Jess's side already, and so I'm probably seeing Dean as more of the bad guy than he legitimately is. So that's probably how I watched that scene. I don't know if that's fair.
Yeah, well, because the not last episode, but 2 episodes before was the Danceathon episode, and so in that was the actual episode where he breaks up with her there at the dance, like in front of everyone, like really loudly, you know, which again could, if you're a Team Jess person and you see him as the villain, then that looks really horrible. However, throughout the entire episode, he's sitting there, or he's putting up with Rory constantly looking at Jess the entire time, constantly like talking about Jess. Jess is there like completely antagonizing him. And so the general consensus from at least a lot of us Team Dean folks, because I am Team Dean, was that, yes, oh yeah.
That's what I was thinking. John, but you haven't seen the entire thing yet. So
I have not. No. And I've said it before. I am prepared to switch teams. Everyone knows this about me. But as of right now, I'm Team Dean, and I just think Jess is
Dean.
I get that, but no. I saw plenty of Jess last season, and everything that I saw from last season of Jess was punk, antagonist. You know, even in the episode where she breaks up with Dean, we talked about this at great length. He's constantly antagonizing, constantly pushing buttons, and I don't know. I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair to Dean, and I think Rory understands that, and I think that's where a lot of Rory's, you know, sort of guilt comes, like not wanting any PDA. She knows that like it could hurt him. She feels really bad. That's, you know, her coming to the window in the last episode. You know, but I'm prepared to start liking Jess. It hasn't gotten there yet. There are a few moments here and there where he kind of gets me, and you know, I like when he's more vulnerable. But so far, comparatively, no, I'm still Team Dean.
But you don't have to be Team Dean just because you don't like Jess. Because Dean was always yelling at her, and like he breaks up with her in front of people. Like if it was me, I would have just taken her aside and been like walked away.
Well, I mean, we talked about that. We talked about that in the episode as well. I think that everyone sort of agrees that what he did there was pretty harsh. However, in the context of what had happened, first of all, everyone's super tired. So we give everyone somewhat of a pass for their loose lips, which Rory is guilty of as well. I mean, the fact that she's like, you know, the fact that she's constantly talking about Jess there on the dance floor with Dean is really weird. But, you know, I think that the sense was like he snapped. He's a high school student. He snapped. I mean, he had sort of had enough, and he was really upset. And I just can understand that. I can relate to that. And
I can get that with him too. Yeah.
And while I guess, yes, in an ideal sense, he takes her to the side. It's like, I'm done, but he's a young guy, and I give that more of a pass than the guy who actively came to the dance. The guy just doesn't want to go to a dance. Like there's nothing about that he's into. He came to the dance for one reason. He came to the dance to antagonize, and then he's got like, this other girl there with him that he's like also completely disregarding. And then the end of the episode, he just like, okay, great, I'm gonna go dump her now. All of it just it didn't sit well with me. That's it. But again, I'm prepared to change. Like, don't get me wrong here. If this character starts to change my feelings, I will go with it. Like, and I think that's good writing. I expect that they will. There's too many Team Jess fans out there in the world.
I agree.
That I can't expect that I'm going to change, but I'm sure that I will. And also, by the way, Keiko, your reasoning is super solid about why you think Team Jess or why Jess is the best for them. I hadn't really put that thought into it about, and of course I don't know about any other person that's coming, but the fact that Jess is the most intellectual match for her is totally true. Like that, I can't.
Well, I have a question for you, John.
Yeah.
If Jess wasn't in the picture, do you think that Dean and Rory would have stayed with him?
No. And I don't think, and I actually agree with you. I don't think that they are a good match, like long term. You're right. He's not an intellectual match for her, and they probably would become just really, really, really good friends. If done right, like, and they may not now because of how awful this whole thing had turned out, but I could see them being just really good buds for the rest of their lives. But like, as a long term, probably not. And when I say Team Dean, and maybe this is wrong, maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of the misunderstanding. When folks are saying Team Dean, Team Jess, they are specifically talking about who do you want for Rory, like long term. And I don't really see it like that because, first of all,
I feel like you're making a case for Dean the person.
Correct.
And Jess the person.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's different.
Correct.
Dean is a better person than Jess, maybe.
Correct. And you're absolutely right. If we're talking about like who's the better match from like that standpoint of like who challenges her, who's intellectually like on her level. As of right now, like I said, I don't know about some other character that's coming. Like I could change my feelings about, and suddenly I could be on that team. But as of right now, you're right. I mean, but I will say though, in the first season, we talked about this a little bit. In the first season, and you may not remember this. I don't know based on how much you remember from first season. The Dean character had a slightly different tone. Because in the first episode of the show, he's talking about Moby Dick. He's talking about, he's reading stuff. They're trading books. So actually, I think that the Dean character was written a little bit smarter, and he was written to be her more intellectual match. And then starting around season 2, probably around the time when they were expecting to bring in a Dean, a Jess character, they started to read like a hard right. Like they just like, suddenly he got really into like battle bots and like just suddenly was not that like intellectual guy that they sort of set the character up to be. So I kind of take that into consideration too. I began the series feeling like he was her intellectual match.
I totally agree.
Dean was at first a really smart character, really fitting to Rory, and they made him like dumber and dumber. Like every episode, he was like, "Oh, I'm not as intellectual. I'm not as good." It's like, and he's getting like annoying. But at this point, I'm on both sides. I couldn't be as far as we watched so far on either side because Dean was hurt. Jess was like the bad boy getting out of his town. So I couldn't be on either side at this point of the episode. So I think you need to see more. And I liked actually every boyfriend the moment where we dated that boyfriend.
And also, you know, Keiko, I will say that a part, and maybe there is a little bit of like the team Dean, like I want Dean for Rory, because you got to also consider that like part of what we like about a person for the other person is we like that person, right? Like, I like just when I think of my friends, you know, and I think about who they're with, I want them to be with somebody that I like. So even if I knew that person was a really great match for them in some way, if I think the person is unsavory, it's hard for me to really like get behind getting excited about them. Like I might put up with it. I might say like, yeah, you know, they love them and they do seem to really get along, but like, ugh, I really have a hard time with that person, you know? And so I think that plays a little part into it. While I can recognize that Jess has these qualities about him that are really, you know, exciting for Rory, which I don't know, like if he does mature, as you say, that could be really fantastic. But as of right now, I see that and I'm like, okay, great, but I really don't like that guy. And so like, is that who I want to be with my Rory, you know, because at this point, like everyone else, that Rory character is really special to me. Like she's a very important, like she's become a friend, you know? And so of course you want the best for the friend. And as of right now, I feel like Dean is really good to Rory, you know? And so of course it's hard for me not to like him in that context.
Well, I think they started writing Dean really toxic. Like as soon as Jess came around and they started kind of writing him a little bit dumber, it was like, I guess I don't see him as much, I don't see him dumber as I see him more, you know, we see what's happening with Rory liking Jess and he sees her looking at him, but we don't really see anything else big. She's not really, she doesn't know what she's feeling and she doesn't know exactly why she's feeling that, and she is torn because she cares about both of them at one point. But he gets so insecure that he flips out and yells at her. He jumps to conclusions all the time, and she even said like, "Oh, I got a chance to miss him today" at one point because he just like appears. He's just there, and it's creepy. And
wait, Lauren, let me ask you real quick: are you Team Jess? Is this what I'm hearing?
I'm not Team Jess.
Okay.
I see more the older I get. I am kind of, sometimes I have teetered on two different teams because I started watching this in my early 20s when it was live. And now that I'm in my 30s, and I think as we mature, we notice a little bit more about the characters. So Dean definitely has some really good points about him where he did treat her well, but then as soon as Jess showed up, he stared being like this not so great person.
Well, I just think he was. I just think he was.
Basically,
I think he was upset.
I don't know. I think that Dean grew more and more insecure as Jess, you know, just stayed in the town, and that's kind of fair considering they were very young and all. But then, you know, as we're discussing the last part of this episode, that you know, Dean going up to Jess and, you know, kind of ambushing him. I think even though I am a big fat team Jess, I think that Jess had it coming after everything that he said, after everything that he had done over the I don't know.
Oh, I don't disagree that he kind of deserved Dean's attitude. I just don't necessarily think that Dean is a better person.
Oh,
hey folks.
I do agree that.
Hey folks, I'm gonna actually put a little break on this right now so that we can get a couple more questions in for Keiko. I want to respect her time, and she's been with us since 8:45. Get two more questions if you can do that, Keiko.
Yes, that's great.
And then I'm going to actually have to bounce as well here really soon, because at 11, I just realized I'm doing something with Benny from Gilmore Gay. And so I'm going to be on his podcast, which I guess will be really fun. I don't know if it's live or what, but he just messaged me and I was like, oh goodness, I still have to like get ready and stuff. I think it's on camera. So who was next in line? Do we have that paper? The last person who spoke was, I believe that was Lauren. Was that Chris?
Yeah, Chris. I
think it was me.
The list.
Mary.
Yeah,
Mary, and then I see Diana flashing. If that's cool, we can do those two. I'm sorry, folks. I know that we wanted to get everybody's questions in, but like I said, I really want to respect Keiko's time, and also I actually do. I am starting to get like a little nervous about my time between now and 11. Mary.
Okay, so I'm going to take us away from the guys a little bit. Keiko, we've talked a lot about Lane's relationship with Mrs. Kim and how Lane can find ways to justify all the secrets that she keeps from Mrs. Kim, and how she's got this whole, oh no, it's not a lie, it's a fib, because if it was a lie, I'd feel it in my gut and my stomach and all of that. And they go as far as trying to do the same thing with Lorelai, but then when they do it with Lorelai, they know it's wrong. How did you feel when you were playing? Like, how do you feel looking at it, or how, when you were playing it, how you kept that line? Do you think it's justified? How do you feel about that relationship?
I think Lane was dealing with things. On the one hand, she had a very strong passion and interest in music and a lot of things that her mother disapproved of. And on the other hand, she had a great love and respect for her mother. And her whole course throughout the 7 years is trying to live in a body where both of those things exist. And how do you make choices day to day to not sacrifice one or the other? And I don't think that she was always successful. But that's the fun of comedy or drama, is to watch people try because they're trying to make something work and fail. So that's how I saw her. And so each challenge, whether it's to lie or to hide something, is her having to make the best choice between these two opposing forces, the best choice that she can.
Thank you. And thank you for coming today.
Sure.
Diana, do you want to make a comment, ask a question?
Yeah, I have sort of a comment / question. Thank you so much, Keiko, for joining us today. This has been really fun. But bouncing off of Mary's question, for me personally, the main thrust of this show is about mothers and daughters, and motherhood in general, and daughterhood in general. And I just wanted to know if you had any overall thoughts about Lorelai and Rory versus Mrs. Kim and Lane, and then of course Lane and her own children, and really how all of those different messages about motherhood and daughterhood are presented, and if you see any value in all of those different stories being presented, and if you had any concrete thoughts about us as viewers and what we're seeing for all of those different stories.
That's great. I think that the mother-daughter dynamic in any family member really is where you deeply love someone and you want the best for them, and you have an idea of what that is and they have an idea of what that is. And when it's the same idea, great. Then you have the great moments of Rory and Lorelai where they like the same things and they agree on how to spend their time. And then you have Emily and Lorelai where they have vastly different ideas of what's best for each other. And the struggle that is, I don't know, I feel like that often where it's that challenge. And I think that's what makes good comedy and good drama, is that you see how hard they're fighting for each other, and how painful it is when you care so deeply about someone, and yet you can't agree on what the best thing is for either of you.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Keiko, do you have time for one more?
Yeah.
Who was next on that list that we were collecting earlier?
I saw Sabrina flashing for a while.
Why don't we?
Yeah, I think it's Sabrina.
Yeah, was it either Sabrina or Shelley? I saw both of them.
I was also flashing too.
Sabrina. Well, yeah, but you already you were one of the first, and I just feel like we should give everybody a chance to speak.
I get it.
Sabrina?
Hey, Keiko. I know Jean asked a great question about representation, and my question is kind of an addendum to that. So I had mentioned during the episode, by the way, I'm half Asian. I look incredibly white, so I'm because I am Asian. But during the episode, I had kind of reflected on the fact that like fake meat, tofurkey, things like that are incredibly trendy now. But I also have been thinking about how like the most popular boy band in the world is a Korean K-pop band, and a lot of things coming from, China, Japan, Korea are becoming sort of like, very trendy in the US, and it's kind of changing representation and changing sort of the outlook on what is cool. So I'm kind of thinking like, oh, the stuff that Mrs. Kim was into ironically is kind of hip now. So I was wondering if that has if that shift has changed how people sort of talk to you about the character or how you like view the story.
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I know what you mean about there being more in Asian influences. I don't find it that it has influenced necessarily the questions that I get. Maybe this has been the biggest thing of a question that it has influenced. But I think it's great. I mean, I'm excited to see what the next decade brings for Asian representation. I'm excited for it. I think there are going to be some good things coming.
Right. Hey, Keiko. Yeah. I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you come back? Would you come back next season and watch another one with us?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So for folks who didn't get a chance to ask a question, we'll have a chance to do that in the future. This was really fun. Thank you for joining us. It was really fun to revisit some of this stuff. I think the next time you come on, it's got to be an episode that we were in together, so that we can chat about some of the stuff that we remember from it, because that's what I'm most excited about, is to talk about like just like weird little stuff that I remember from shooting, or things that people said, or funny things that I remember some of you all doing. Like I have a bunch of memories of you and Todd that I want to share, and I kind of would love to share it while you're with us.
Yeah, no, we totally should do that. That would be super fun. We should totally do one of those episodes. Yeah.
You guys should do whenever you schedule In the Clamor and the Clangor.
Yeah, well, I'll take a look at them. I will probably let folks know through the Remarkist app when we're going to have some guests going forward. So you might want to check that out. All right, so I've made everybody, as always, moderators. That means that I'm going to leave, and anybody who wants to stick around and continue chit-chatting, they certainly can. I'm going to be back tonight at 7 p.m. for another episode, episode 10. And this was a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, watching this episode with me and Keiko. And thank you, Keiko, for hanging with us today.
Yes, Keiko, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming and supporting the community.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, John.
Bye, John. See you guys later.
Bye.